With Last Action Hero, Arnold Schwarzenegger was soundly defeated at the box office by Jurassic Park, and critics were ready to devour him and declare his career over. But Arnold was not going to take that lying down. This was his moment to show he could weather a high-profile flop and bounce back with a hit. And when you need a hit, there's only one person to turn to: James Cameron. But what would end up becoming Arnold's highest-grossing movie without Terminator in the title is all but lost to time. Why? Well, let's explore what happened and separate fact from fiction with True Lies. Hello, friends, and welcome back to Every Arnold Movie Ever, episode 21. In 1991, after Terminator 2, both Arnold and James Cameron were looking for their next projects to follow up on the biggest hit of their careers. Cameron had been trying to get his script for Spider-Man off the ground, and originally he wanted to cast Leonardo DiCaprio as Peter Parker and Arnold Schwarzenegger as Doc Ock. Meanwhile, Arnold just had his eyes open.
I'd learned about True Lies the previous year when Bobby Shriver called and said he'd seen a French movie that I might like to remake for the American screen. It's called La Totale, he said, and it's about this 007 type ass-kicking guy whose wife doesn't know what he does for a living. But it was too static for an American movie and needed action and energy. Jim Cameron, I thought. So I called Cameron and I said, let's do this together, the way you envision things. Big.
And after watching the movie, Cameron agreed this was the perfect fit, so he got to work on a script. And it came together a lot faster than Spider-Man, since Spider-Man had so many rights issues and stakeholders, and in 1992, it was a much bigger risk than it is today, or even in 2002. Comic book movie successes were few and far between at that time. Batman, sure, but that's an outlier. This was the era of low-budget Captain America and Nick Fury played by David Hasselhoff. I saw that movie once in a hotel, and for the longest time, I was convinced it was a fever dream. But it's real. Unlike Cameron's Spider-Man, which simmered in the background and had all these troubles, so he moved ahead with True Lies, and Arnold moved on to Last Action Hero. And we all know how that turned out. And if you don't, go watch my episode on it, and while you're at it, hit the thumbs up and the subscribe and drop a comment and hit the bell, and mother love bone. YouTubers ask a lot of their viewers, but I guess, when there's a plaque on the line, you really got to shill for it. Now, that plaque is for 100,000 subscribers. Look, I'm just looking for 1,000. That's like 5 more, okay? When that happens, I'm not going to get a plaque. I don't know, maybe I'll make my own. But my 1,000th subscriber will get a special shout out on the show. All right, back to True Lies. And just before Last Action Hero hit screens, True Lies was announced in Variety. There's a funny paragraph in that article where Lightstorm president Larry Kasanoff assured that the budget won't be in the range of Terminator 2, which reportedly came in at $88 million. Kasanoff was right about that, because True Lies became the most expensive movie at the time. That's a trend for Arnold, who repeatedly broke budget records, and something James Cameron would carry on with Titanic and Avatar. When it came to casting, there were 2 major roles to be filled. The first was Harry Tasker / Rehnquist's wife, Helen. Cameron said he wrote it originally for Jamie Lee Curtis, but Arnold objected. He felt she wasn't right for the part. So Cameron entertained other options, and at one point cast Jodie Foster, but she had to drop out due to a commitment for the movie Nell, and so Cameron circled back to his original choice, Jamie Lee Curtis, particularly after seeing her in A Fish Called Wanda, and eventually Arnold relented and agreed. The second role was that of Gib, Harry's partner. Now, I've seen lists for possible actors to play this role, including Dan Aykroyd, John Goodman, Joe Pesci, Steve Guttenberg, the Goot, and Bill Murray. I'm just glad Belushi wasn't on that list. Tom Arnold came into audition, and he didn't think he'd get the role at all. Here's a totally sober Tom Arnold explaining it all.
And I read the part, and it was so big, I thought, I'll never get that. It's the third lead. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger, it's Jamie Lee Curtis. So I didn't even read the sides. I just wanted to meet Jim Cameron, the director. And he goes, hey, do you mind if I film you? So he grabbed a camera like that fella, and I go, okay. And he goes, hey, get Arnold down here in 5 minutes. And the 2 of us read together, and he stops filming. He says, well, that's it.
And he hires him on the spot. Unfortunately, 20th Century Fox was not as enthused, since Tom Arnold was in the tabloids with Roseanne at the time, acting like weirdos, but Cameron went to bat for him, and Fox relented. Basically, he was like, yeah, if Tom Arnold isn't in this, then we're walking. And once the major roles were in place, they set out to make the biggest action comedy of all time. Did they succeed? Well, let's take a look. True Lies opens with a Bond-style sequence where we meet Harry Tasker emerging from the ice in a scuba suit, which he sheds to reveal a perfectly dry-clean tuxedo. Yes, his name is Harry. Yes, it's one of my favorite words to say in the Arnold accent. No, I will not be saying his name in the Arnold accent the entire time. That would get old very fast. We then meet members of Harry's team, Gibson, played by Tom Arnold, and Faisal, played by Grant Heslov, who's not only an actor, but also George Clooney's producing partner, having done Good Night and Good Luck, Leatherheads, The Ides of March, and The Monuments Men. The casting here was done by Mali Finn, the hero casting director of T2 who found Eddie Furlong, and the music is by Brad Fiedel, the hero composer of Terminator and T2. Although, outside of the main theme, I don't really find this score to be all that memorable. Still love Brad Fiedel though. Great. Legend. I love how Harry brazenly wanders through the party like an asshole, and everyone has the same reaction.
Who is that guy?
This guy is a spy, and he's going out of his way to stand out rather than blend in, even more so when he meets Juno Skinner, played by early 90s babe Tia Carrere.
She's a babe!
For reasons I still don't understand, she does jury duty after this, and then jury duty, the movie, she doesn't just go to jury duty. And then her career goes straight to video and syndicated TV, where it's remained ever since. What's up with that? Harry and Juno tango, which hilariously serves as a distraction from the guards that are looking for him. Hey guys, it's the guy in the center of the dance floor everyone is looking at. Arnold jokes that this was the hardest stunt he's ever had to perform, practicing it for 6 months. And this whole opening sequence is Cameron showing he can out-Bond Bond. Doggy headbutts, skiing henchmen, Arnold sliding on his back in the snow while plugging pursuers with bullets. I love this time in movies where the stunt work was incredible and practical, and they did their best to try and hide that it's a stuntman, but they didn't have the technology to CG Arnold's face in there, so it's a lot of not Arnold, not Arnold, not Arnold, ooh, that's Arnold. After Harry escapes with the stolen info, Gib drops Harry off at home, where we learn he's a family man with a wife and daughter. He and his wife are stuck in a rut. She's a bored housewife, and he doesn't have time to pay attention to her.
Plumber called. I slept with him, and he said he'd knock off $100.
That's good thinking. Bye, honey.
I should mention, James Cameron was absolutely right to fight for Tom Arnold. Can't believe I'm saying that, but he is on fire in this movie.
Boy, I remember the first time I got shot out of a cannon.
With True Lies, he basically throws his one perfect game, and the rest of his career is like Dr. Fauci throwing out the first pitch. They established these spy sunglasses with a CCD camera, and at the same time established that Harry's daughter Dana is clearly affected by her father not being around.
He's ripping you off.
Dana! I knew it.
Then we head to their phony SHIELD headquarters and, hey, look at this Total Recall tech coming back into our lives. Remember how advanced that was at the time? Now it's just like a throwaway. This location is so secure that Janice here cradles a gun even after clearly seeing Harry and Gib. Now they enter Omega Sector and meet their boss, played by Charlton Heston, very obviously modeled after Hasselhoff's Nick Fury. And there's also a little in-joke here because Charlton Heston starred in The Omega Man in 1971. They explain the point of that opening scene. They stole bank information and think Khalid is funding terrorism. They also discover that Juno received funds from Khalid, so Harry pays her a visit.
Do you see anything you like?
Maybe.
Afterwards, one of her employees comes in and slaps Skinner across the face. Well, that's a surprise. This is our main villain. But, as is the modus operandi of this film, once is not enough, so he slaps her a second time. And we get a quick, probably inadvertent callback to T2.
Dana and I wanted to make sure that you're going to be home by 8.
This time you can count on me.
Promise?
Trust me.
And by visiting Juno, Harry tipped himself off to Aziz, who tails him, leading us to another spectacular action sequence, all in the first half hour. And just like in T2, Cameron is so good at the extra layers of detail, these small moments that add a lived-in quality to the movie. Like here, when Harry tests his earpiece and Gib responds very quickly.
You're testing 1, 2, 3.
I got
testing.
you. I got you.
It's such a throwaway. It could have been a simple test, I've got it. But they make a little bit of a meal out of it, and the delivery feels character-driven, and it's much more natural. The spy camera we established gets put into play, and we get this killer bathroom fight scene that clearly inspired Mission Impossible 6's, minus the Henry Cavill magical growing beard. We get our first catchphrase of the movie.
Here, cool off.
And a mandatory guy in the wrong place at the wrong time gag. And everything Tom Arnold does in this movie makes me laugh. Good joke here with the light pole.
Oh, thank God.
Harry chases Aziz, who steals a motorcycle, so Harry finds a horse. And it's a memorable twist to what could have been just another chase scene, and you can thank Arnold's horse training from Conan for this. There's a running gag where Harry's always apologizing to people, like the cop,
Sorry.
the old man in the bathroom,
Sorry about this.
and I think he did the same thing in Raw Deal.
Excuse me, could you move to the side a little bit? Thank you.
Arnold is clearly having a blast in this movie, getting to deliver great lines like,
Can't make it quick because my horse is getting tired.
Your horse.
the chase takes them into a hotel, through the lobby, up the elevator, and onto the roof. And if this all sounds ridiculous, it is, but it's shot in a way that you're just sucked into the action and you just easily buy into it. I don't know what it is with Cameron, but like he's got some sort of magic touch that will pull you into a scene and then you will pretty much go anywhere he takes you. Aziz now is trapped on the roof, so he jumps his motorcycle across the buildings into a pool. And this is about where Cameron almost loses me. The effects here don't quite work, and it's glaring because so much of the effects do work. Harry attempts to follow Aziz, but his horse says nay. Now, this part was shot on a soundstage, but Arnold was almost seriously injured when the horse reacted poorly to a camera in its face and nearly dropped him 90 feet onto concrete.
I slid off him as fast as I could, but there was no place to go. I was on the gangplank 90 feet up and under the horse. All I could think was, stay alive, stay on this platform, watch those hooves!
Thanks to all this excitement, Harry misses the birthday party his family threw for him, and he tries to make it up to his wife Helen by visiting her the next day at work. But it turns out, Harry isn't the only one with a secret.
You're a mystery man on too. Simon?
It seems Helen is having an affair. Walking out in a stupor, Harry almost gets hit by a car, and Tom Arnold talking about the ice cube trays.
I had no idea nothing's going on, right? I come home one day and the house is completely empty. She even took the ice cube trays out of the freezer.
Was a real story about Roseanne. Cameron thought it was funny, so he put it in the movie. Harry does not appreciate this effort.
Stop cheering me up.
And I don't appreciate this extra staring at me for so long. Makes me feel self-conscious. Is there something on my face? And for the next 45 minutes, you can just forget about all that terrorist stuff because it's all about Harry surveilling his own wife to find out if she's actually cheating on him. Side note, Arnold should wear way more cardigans in his movies. And in this whole sequence, Gibb acts as the audience's conscience.
Listen, I got 2 words to describe that idea. Insane. An unauthorized wiretap's a felony.
Never mind the fact that Harry's been lying to his wife their entire relationship. Harry doesn't seem to get the irony there.
So basically, you're lying your ass off the whole time. See, I couldn't do that.
Then we meet Bill Paxton, a sleazeball pretending to be a spy, and Tom Arnold has another great line.
I'm starting to like this guy.
Oh, we still got to kill him. I mean, that's a given.
Now, Harry finds out Simon is a used car salesman, the ultimate dirtbag cliche, and Harry gets so mad he breaks the glass on his binoculars. Sometimes this movie goes a little too far. Harry goes on a test ride with Simon, and they do everything they can to make him detestable.
The vet gets him wet.
But like, he's also Bill Paxton, so you kind of like him. The added layer of this relationship is that Harry and Simon are different sides of the same coin. Simon pretends to be a spy, but he's just a regular guy. And Harry pretends to be a regular guy, but he's a spy. And I think it's the reason Gibb kind of admires him. No one is who they say they are. Harry isn't a family man, Simon isn't a spy, Helen isn't just sitting at home, Juno isn't just an art dealer, and Aziz isn't just her employee. And watching everyone work through those masks as they drop and they come back up, it's a lot of fun. Then we reach the most violent moment of the movie.
Ass like a 10-year-old boy.
And it's a dream sequence, totally unnecessary, and totally not a part of the rules of the movie, having this brief dream sequence, but that's kind of the beauty of True Lies. It just does whatever it wants and pulls you along for the ride. Gibb tries to hide the fact that Helen is going to meet Simon, but Harry figures it out.
Give me the goddamn page.
Once again, Gibb reacting to Harry breaking the window is pitch perfect.
Okay.
They follow Simon. We get another voice cameo from James Cameron. You know, he voiced the date that stood up Sarah Connor in Terminator 1.
I'm really sorry. I'll make it up to you.
And here he's the helicopter pilot who drolly says,
"Oh yeah, she's got her head in the guy's lap all right. Yahoo."
Simon takes Helen to his quote-unquote safe house, which is obviously just the trailer where he lives. Another great small Cameron touch with the plastic wine cups. convinces Helen to go to Paris, then makes his move on her, which then prompts Harry and his team to move in on them. That leads to the cringiest scene in the movie, Harry anonymously questioning Helen. And even at the time this came out, there was criticism that this sequence humiliates poor Helen. But the movie is pretty clear through Gibbs' dialogue that what Harry is doing is completely wrong. Now, the humor comes in how far he goes in abusing his power rather than, just talking to his wife. It doesn't entirely condone his behavior, and Helen holds her own here, especially the way Jamie Lee Curtis plays it. She's equal parts frustrated, embarrassed, and defiant. During this interrogation, Harry realizes he's been neglecting Helen and decides to add some excitement to her life.
What are you doing, Harry?
Just giving her a little assignment.
Again, he could have just offered to take her on a vacation or something, but clearly Harry has issues, and also that would not make for a very fun movie. Next up on the humiliation train is Simon. It's so great that even when he's being dangled on the edge of a dam, he still wonders if Harry is interested in buying the Corvette.
It's you! You still interested in that vet at all?
They scare the piss out of him. Literally.
Oh, God, oh.
Did they really have to doubly disgrace him by having him admit he has a tiny penis?
I got a little dick. It's pathetic.
And piss his pants? No, of course not. But this is True Lies. It's maximalist in every other aspect. You might as well be maximalist in the humiliation of your characters. Helen gets her assignment and heads to the hotel marquee. She's to pose as a prostitute and place a bug near the target's phone. And this brings us to the most famous scene of the movie, the striptease. Jamie Lee Curtis, she's really funny, and it's rooted in character. She's not just going to give this flawless dance. In fact, when she's first told to dance, she does this.
No.
And then she starts to get into it. And yeah, this has the potential to be very creepy. But there are moments that keep the creep at bay, like when she falls off the bedpost. Apparently she and James Cameron choreographed her falling, but didn't tell Arnold, so his reaction here when he sits up is totally real. And I was always baffled by this one line.
Do it doucement.
Dewey Decimal? Apparently he's saying doucement, which is French for gently, and we've all learned something today, or I don't know, maybe it was just me. Anyway, the creepy factor is now ticking up even further as the voice recorder tells Helen,
Now lie on the bed and close your eyes.
She has no idea this is Harry, and he kisses her, and it seems like his intention is to reveal himself here, but I guarantee that would not have gone well. Luckily, Helen smashes him in the face with a telephone before he can do that, putting an end to all the awkwardness, and Harry reveals himself here.
Helen, wait.
And the terrorists remember, oh shit, we're in this movie too, so then they show up, and Helen thinks they're after her, but Harry knows that they're coming for him. It's all very farcical and a lot of fun.
He has nothing to do with it. I am the one you want.
Now, Juno then reveals that they smuggled a nuclear warhead through these ancient statues. Harry confirms the nuclear warhead.
This is Soviet MERV 6, an SS-22N launch vehicle.
And suddenly, everything clicks for Helen. She understands her husband has been lying to her their entire relationship.
What can I say? I'm a spy.
So, payback, bitch. And Helen and Harry are taken to a torture expert, and Arnold is just at his very best in this scene and the scene before, just tearing through joke after joke.
Do you know what this is? This is an espresso machine. No. It's a snow cone maker. Is it a water heater? You know you should swap that with alcohol. I might get an infection.
Did you tell her about us, Harry?
There was nothing. I swear.
And at this point, Cameron is trying to have it both ways. He wants these terrorists to be a threat, as evidenced by Aziz hitting Juno earlier, and his threats to Helen here, but he also wants to make fun of them, like having the camera die. It's a fine line to walk, and it definitely favors the comedy over the stakes. I don't know if that was the right decision or not. There's already a lot of comedy in this, but I get what he was trying to do. In the meantime, Harry is given a truth serum, and now it's Helen's turn to question her husband. She's able to turn the tables, which is important to the story, especially after what she's been through, and this helps level the playing field. I think it's good storytelling and character development, and it also leads to one of my favorite line deliveries from Arnold.
Ask me a question that I normally would lie to.
Are we gonna die?
Yep.
Followed by my second favorite line delivery by Arnold.
Have you ever killed anyone?
Yeah, but they were all bad.
And shit like this is the reason I love Arnold Schwarzenegger. He is so skilled at delivering these tongue-in-cheek lines, and his acting has improved dramatically, even if you go back to Total Recall. He's funny, but he's less precise in his delivery. Now, the torturer returns to do some torturing, but not before Harry gives a big spoiler alert.
Is there anything you want to tell me before we start?
I'm going to kill you pretty soon. First, I'm going to use you as a human shield. Then I'm going to kill this guard over there. And then I was thinking about breaking your neck.
And there is something so satisfying when he does exactly that. And at this point, the movie is just humming along. Cameron even adds a little moment here to show that Harry is still feeling the effects of the truth serum. Didn't have to do that, but it just adds a little extra something to it. Harry and Helen try to escape, and it can't be a Schwarzenegger-Cameron movie without some cool gun trick. And then we get our second Stallone reference in as many movies.
I married Rambo.
The terrorists set a timer for the warhead to explode in 90 minutes and then cover it in concrete.
What are they doing?
No force can stop us now. We're cool, we're badasses, blah, 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 blah.
Harry gives Helen an Uzi, then snaps some necks
Like a chicken.
And this leads to my least favorite gag in the movie. Somehow, I am on board with nearly everything else. But Helen dropping the Uzi, having it fall down the stairs and kill everybody in its path is just, it's too goofy. Although Jamie Lee's reaction almost saves it. And we get this massive explosion when Aziz fires a rocket. And he does what any serious terrorist would do, a Kevin McAllister style celebration. Great action here. It feels like a finale, but we are not done yet. We still have 2 more giant action scenes. Gibb picks up Harry.
Let's go, brief in the air.
You're welcome.
And they chase down the terrorists heading across the Florida Keys Bridge. But they aren't just gonna settle for a helicopter chasing down a truck. No, they call in some Harrier jets to attack the trucks. James Cameron rented 3 real Harriers from the government for about $100,000. James Cameron spent $100,000 on Harriers, and what does he do with them? Well, he intercuts them with this goofy moment with the terrorists. Another one of my favorite reactions from Arnold here.
These missiles won't set off those nukes, will they?
That's a negative, flank 01.
The bridge explodes, more wacky terrorist humor. Perfect timing from this guy, though. Helen fights with Juno and just smacks the shit out of her with this champagne bottle. And that leads us to another incredible stunt. This time, Jamie Lee Curtis did a lot of it herself, convinced by James Cameron, because when she asked where he'd be, he said he'd be hanging off the helicopter holding the camera, and she was like, okay, guess I gotta do it then. And we finally get our romantic reconciliation with the nuclear blast in the background, and the movie ends. Sorry, I meant any normal movie would end there, but not True Lies. Not James Cameron, baby. He spent $100,000 on those Harriers. He is getting his money's worth. The terrorists kidnap Dana, so Harry jetnaps a Harrier. And he tells Helen,
Go to work.
Okay.
Bye.
like a little kid who was given permission to go play with his friends. Bye! The terrorists address the nation, looking like buffoons again.
We are all prepared to die. One turn of that key.
What key?
That key!
And Harry shows up in the Harrier and starts laying waste to these terrorists. Although, I never understood the trajectory of the bullets in this shot. Like, are they hitting the water in the background? Because that's not where the bullets would land. That's not how physics works. The wrong place in the wrong time gag comes back, but this time they add on top of it the crazy shit happens outside of an office while someone is obliviously listening to music trope, followed by the cartoony crotch shot complete with close-up reaction. It's turned into a Wile E. Coyote cartoon. And that's all set up for Arnold's most famous one-liner from this movie.
You're fired.
Cameron hired a bunch of comedy writers to punch up the script, and this is one of the only lines he kept. Good line, though. Then we get our tag with the happy family 1 year later. But things have changed. Helen's hair is different. She gets hero lighting. She's now an agent. The whole family looks happy, and we come full circle with another party and both of them confusing the guests.
How nice to see you again.
And I totally forgot that Simon returns at the end. They do a double dip on the pants piss.
Oh, God.
and True Lies ends on a tango between the happy couple. True Lies was released on July 15th, 1994, and beat out Forrest Gump with $25.8 million opening weekend. Reviews were ecstatic, though not without qualifiers. Siskel, back to hating on Arnold.
You know, Roger, we saw the picture, I think, the same way, and yet my thumb is down. Bill Paxton, good actor, but a dumb, stupid plot. Not high-tech, not smart. It's like there's bookends to garbage in the middle. I agree.
Ever the Arnold defender, though, Ebert gave it 3 stars, but cited the infidelity subplot and the striptease scene specifically as a reason the movie didn't reach the heights of T2 or Total Recall. Thanks to the positive reviews and great word of mouth, True Lies went on to gross $146 million in the United States and Canada and $232 million in the rest of the world, totaling $378.8 million worldwide, making it the 3rd highest grossing film of 1994, behind Lion King and Forrest Gump. Because it was a hard R movie, True Lies didn't receive any action figures. In fact, we're nearly at the end of Arnold doing any movies with action figure lines. Really only one left. But it did have a video game, this time not a shitty Nintendo game. It was on the SNES, a top-down shooter, and it was actually really good. True Lies finally breaks the bad Arnold movie game adaptation trend. After its theatrical run, True Lies got a VHS release on January 11th, 1995, which I still have, but I don't have a VHS player anymore, so this is just a collector's item. It came out on DVD on May 25th, 1999, and then nothing. Nothing. No Blu-ray, no 4K. It shows up sporadically on streaming for short bursts. In fact, in between writing this episode and shooting it, I saw that it popped up on Hulu. But you can't buy it on iTunes, and who knows how long it's going to be on Hulu. So how does a $350 million box office hit practically disappear? As recently as 2018, Cameron said there was a Blu-ray transfer awaiting his approval, but he's too busy in Pandora to sit down to approve the master. It's bizarre that a movie that was so hugely successful has been essentially Thanos snapped out of existence for the last 15 years. Although releasing it now might likely remind everyone of its many... At the time, there was criticism of the depiction of the terrorists, which is totally justifiable. They are buffoons, which is a great way to portray terrorists and the evil men of the planet. It's a tradition that goes all the way back to Buster Keaton and The Great Dictator and continues through Team America and The Interview. But True Lies makes the mistake of having incredibly generic villains who all look specifically Middle Eastern. Instead of denigrating a very specific target like a Hitler or a Bin Laden, Cameron uses a broad brush to paint an entire group of people as terrorists. You can't just be like, oh, all terrorists are dumb, am I right? When your terrorists are exclusively portrayed as Middle Eastern. When it was released, True Lies was protested by Arab Americans. Jack Shaheen, an emeritus professor at Southern Illinois University, said at the time that True Lies probably will stand the test of time as one of the most racist movies Hollywood has ever produced. And in response, 20th Century Fox agreed to add a disclaimer at the tail end of the credits with a little statement that said,
"The film is a work of fiction and does not represent the actions or beliefs of a particular culture or religion."
Nailed it. Now, Cameron says it was supposed to be non-specific, non-political, and it could have been just about any group of people.
I just needed some convenient villains. It could have been anybody. I could have picked Irish terrorists.
He didn't pick Irish terrorists because the movie Blown Away was using Irish terrorists, and even if he did, that's just shifting one bad stereotype to another. So yeah, I think it's good to acknowledge that and to understand, different time, pre-9/11, it was the wrong decision. And yeah, I mean, you gotta look at it through that lens. The other controversy was something Ebert brought up, the misogyny. Helen gets humiliated for almost having an extramarital affair, but Harry does nearly the same thing and doesn't receive nearly as bad of a punishment. I viewed that as part of Helen's character arc. She's the one who changes the most through the movie, from a bored housewife to an adventurous ass kicker. She's put through the ringer with a couple uncomfortable moments, but she also emerges as more of a hero, and she gets a couple really great moments. although LA Times critic Kenneth Turan at the time said,
I felt embarrassed for both Jamie Lee Curtis and for her character when I watched her scenes. In the context of an action film, a strong character is in control. She's being controlled. The audience is laughing at her because she's being humiliated.
But, according to an Entertainment Weekly article in 1994, no women's groups protested the movie. Jamie Lee Curtis said this was the greatest experience of her professional life so far. And on top of that, as James Cameron was editing the movie, he felt that Jamie Lee Curtis had contributed just as much as Arnold to the film, so he called up Arnold to see if he would share the above title credit. Ooh, that vaunted above title credit. And Arnold immediately agreed. So good for him, good for her, good for everybody. But the worst thing to come out of True Lies were the allegations by Eliza Dushku, who was 12 at the time of filming, against the stunt coordinator Joel Kramer. And when she tried to speak out at the time, she says he put her in a dangerous position for a stunt and she injured 2 ribs. Since then, several other women have spoken out about Kramer. Terrible stuff that messes with this movie's legacy, although the film's stars and James Cameron have all come out in support of Eliza. True Lies is James Cameron seeing how much money he can take from a studio and throw at the screen for a premise that probably doesn't require this massive scope. It's just Cameron doing James Bond in the same way he gave us his version of Aliens. Supersized and balls to the wall. Maximalism. It was James Cameron re-teaming with Arnold in the wake of T2. It was filled with iconic moments. Arnold doing the tango, the bridge stunt, the Harrier sequence, the horse chase, top-notch one-liners, Tom Arnold actually being funny. It's pure spectacle from start to finish. It out-bonds James Bond. Arnold gives one of his best performances. Jamie Lee Curtis is having fun. Bill Paxton is the perfect sleazeball. And somehow, Arnold and Tom Arnold's chemistry just finds a magical little balance. I think True Lies is the movie Last Action Hero wanted to be. It's poking fun at its own genre without breaking the movie, save for that Uzi dropping moment. And I've been trying to come up with a word to best describe James Cameron's movies. I said spectacle earlier, but it's not spectacle because that implies lacking substance. Solid, like sturdy, maybe stout. His plots are the well-constructed backbone of his movies, and they progress logically from one scene to the next, guided by characters making proactive choices. And those characters are well fleshed out and shown empathy, usually, except for Pee-Pee Pants, Bill Paxton. But even characters in smaller roles get a little memorable moment or two. And the action is always massive, and mostly it's never been done before. And I always leave a James Cameron movie knowing he thought through every single detail before committing it to screen. Stout. True Lies seemed to soothe Arnold's disappointment in Last Action Hero.
You have to look at the total picture. 95% of the time, the press has been so kind. If they feel story-wise it will be a better story if they beat up on you, then so be it. And the next day, you'll benefit from it because they'll say, he's back.
I do wonder what Arnold's career would have looked like if he followed up T2 with True Lies and kept his winning streak alive. If Last Action Hero was just wiped off the planet, it never existed, would the hate for that movie have been delayed and then compounded when Junior came out? Just the fact that Arnold was constantly taking chances with his persona means that at some point the risk would outweigh the reward. And that's fine. It happens to every single actor and actress. It only becomes a problem if you string together a couple misses in a row. Arnold has been able to avoid that up until this point. But that day will come, like in season 3 of every Arnold movie ever. But for now, Arnold's back in a big way, and for all its success, it's surprising that True Lies never got a... True Lies 2 has been talked about since 1994, after Spider-Man fell away once Carolco went bankrupt. A production company going bankrupt, isn't that how all of these stories end? Cameron prepped True Lies 2 to be his next movie after Titanic, to be released in 2002. He had a script written and everything. Unfortunately, the events of 9/11 caused Cameron to drop the idea, saying,
terrorism is no longer something to take as lightly as we did in the first one. I just can't see it happening given the current world climate.
So with Cameron committed to spending the rest of his life making Avatar movies, True Lies 2 is just a script lying around his office somewhere. However, it is not the last we'll see of this franchise because CBS just greenlit a series order for True Lies, the TV show, starring not Arnold and not Jamie Lee Curtis, but it is executive produced by Lightstorm and Cameron. It's so odd that this movie from 1994, which isn't always readily available, now has a remake series coming out. If nothing else, maybe this will spur Cameron to get that 4K version out into the world. All right, let's get to the stats. Acting chops, 9. Arnold still crushing it, and True Lies showcases all his best talents. Action, humor, horse riding, even a little dancing. Kill count, 87! Huge number for a total of 451 and a half. Catchphrase, kind of partial to, but I think it's gotta be, "You're fired." And here are the every Arnold movies ever. Cameos, damn you, Beretta's Island. The bottom 10 remains unchanged. Let's take a look. Number 9, Pumping Iron. Number 8, Kindergarten Cop. Number 7, Conan the Barbarian. Number 6, Commando. Number 5, True Lies. 4, Predator. 3, Terminator. 2, Total Recall. 1, Terminator 2, Judgment Day. Next up, Arnold and Ivan Reitman conclude their comedic trilogy with a much maligned, super weird project that further chips away at Arnold's reputation. I have not seen this one in over 20 years, and I've been kind of dreading it, but the due date is here, and it's time for Junior.